I don't think y'all realize just how important Bob slash Sentry slash the Void is to the future of the MCU, but they're setting him up to have a massive role in the MCU moving forward. And in today's TED Talk, I'm going to be talking about Sentry's origin and breaking it all down, the similarities and the differences from the comics and the movie, and what I think his role is going to be in Doomsday. And either way, me and you know what we got to do. We got to talk about it. Cucumber! Cucumber! So we got this illustrious back shot of Sentry, aka the Void, looking like an unlockable character. But who are they and why are they one of the most powerful characters in the entire MCU? In the comics, Robert Reynolds was just an ordinary guy with a severe drug addiction issue who, thanks to the impulses of his drug addiction, takes the Golden Sentry serum, which ends up making him the pinnacle of super soldier and granting him with the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, but also a dark half. Robert Reynolds ultimately becomes the Sentry. Now that right there is already way different than it is in the movie. In the movie, Robert Reynolds seeks help and he gets his powers from Valentina, who is using human test subjects to try to create her the Sentry. One of the most powerful Superman-esque powered characters in the comics, with the other three being Gladiator, Blue Marvel, and Hyperion. Now, this Golden Sentry serum was actually based off of the original Super Soldier serum by Dr. Erskine. You know, the guy who made Captain America. Not a perfect soldier, but a good man. Well, it turns out Canada's Department K, in an attempt to restart the Weapons Plus program, we actually see his Sentry logo that goes on his belt buckle right here, as well as some plans for this Golden Sentry serum. You can see the way their hair turns blonde, which makes me think that they're going to try to make Sentry look like a Super Saiyan in this, which all I got to say is that means something to me. Ullman is going to be playing Robert Reynolds, aka Bob. Like, they're trying so hard to make him look like a goofball that it's not obvious anymore. We all know that's Robert Reynolds, but on hands and knees in front of Florence Pugh, that's kind of real. Mommy. But Sentry's got a darker half, an entity named the Void that lives inside of his mind, which can take over at times and become just a straight up villain. And his final form is a thing of nightmares. He looks like a big ass crustacean. So yeah, when you see all this black shroud in New York City, that's the Void. And the Void is sending people to the damn gulag, which is something that's ripped straight from the damn panels. Another difference is it looks like the Void is going to end up being another personality for Bob slash Sentry. Whereas in the comics, the Void is an entirely different entity that becomes a part of the Sentry when he takes a serum. Whole different dimension and everything. Just to give you a sense for how powerful Sentry is, he was able to tie in a fight with World Breaker Hulk. And I need this fight in live action more than I need air. And I know what you're probably thinking, how the fuck are these super soldiers gonna be able to beat a god, basically? I mean, we saw Sentry, aka the Void, just throw Alexi out of a damn window. Which, by the way, we can kind of see a little bit of that yellow suit right there. And that blonde Super Saiyan hair. I mean, shit, he gave Bucky flashbacks. You have a metal arm? That's awesome, dude. Dog, he ripped Bucky's arm from its socket and tossed him aside like he was a fucking toy. Like he was Woody from Toy Story. I wish I could show this whole panel, but it's kind of gruesome. But Sentry, aka the Void, has a fetish for tearing people in half. And let's just say I think I know who his first victim is gonna be. That entire penthouse fight scene was crazy, dog. It was a one shot, one take, just him beating ass. These Thunderbolts didn't even make this man flinch when you really think about it. And he actually showcased a lot of his abilities, like being able to burn Walker's gun with his eyes. That was fire. I mean, just blocking everyone's hits, the speed, the just like nonchalantness of beating everyone's ass was crazy. I was really hoping that Taskmaster would make it to this part of the movie just so she would get torn in half. Very unfortunate that did not happen. I feel like that would have been a cool way for her to get, tossed aside. But we move, you know what I mean? The only person that can stop Sentry and the Void is Sentry and the Void. In the comics, he makes everyone and himself forget about the Void. That way he has no power over his mind, which actually sounds similar. Now, in the MCU, they're able to defeat him with the power of friendship, which I actually kind of prefer because it means that Sentry's playing the Hulk role in the Thunderbolts or the New Avengers, where, yeah, you would like him when he's angry and you want him to be the Sentry, but there's a risk-reward when he becomes a Sentry that the Void might come out too. I think there's a lot of intriguing narrative things you could do with that, as opposed to having a Peter Parker mind erase him every single time. And he has way more powers than what we just saw in the movie. One of those being that he can manipulate molecules. Now, not to the same extent as Molecule Man. It looks like Thunderbolts director Jake Schreier is trying to get all of his teases out of the way too. Because during an interview with Cinema Blend, he teased how Thunderbolts is going to tie into Avengers Doomsday. There might be some stones or pebbles. I don't know how you want to rate your rocks. Look, you know the character that we're talking about, and you know that there's a level of power involved there that can have an impact going forward. Haha, Jake, you messed up letting someone like me get that little bit of information, because now I know. And no, he's not talking about anyone that kicks and punches really hard or phases through walls and shit. Mind you, this is our confirmed cast member list for Avengers Doomsday. They each got a chair during Avengers Chairs Day gimmick. He's talking about Bob, but more importantly, that demon Sentry slash the Void, not that Void. But now here's where shit gets interesting and where my theory kicks in, because I don't think this just affects Avengers Doomsday. This is going to affect Avengers Secret Wars as well. Because if they're going to be adapting Jonathan Hickman's Avengers Secret Wars, then we're going to need someone to play that Molecule Man role. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with with Molecule Man's game, he is a key resource for Doctor Doom during the Secret War storyline. Essentially, he's a plot device and also a tool, but he's also got some complexity to him as a character during the Secret War storyline. But at the end of the day, Molecule Man ends up being a key fixture for Doctor Doom, a tool, a weapon, basically to learn everything about the Beyonders, steal their power, take their power, and create Battle World. Just to sum it up real quick, there's a lot more little nuances there, but I'm not going to spoil that shit for you. So I think they're going to be replacing Molecule Man with Sentry. And I know what you're probably thinking, Sammy, why? Well, that's because Sentry / the Void also has the ability to manipulate molecules the same way that Molecule Man does. Not to the same extent, but you get where I'm going. They're going to use that same plot line as a thread. I thought either Loki or the Scarlet Witch would be the Molecule Man in this scenario, and the Scarlet Witch very well could still be. Maybe they do a combination of the Scarlet Witch and Sentry. But instead, I think that means that Loki's going to end up being our Beyonder, since he's basically the fucking holder of the multiverse. So I think Doom is going to use Sentry / the Void, maybe even Wanda, to get to Loki, get his power, and then that's how he makes his own multiverse, one world under Doom. But what adds even more fuel to the fires, remember when those concept arts that are fake leaked? You know, at first a lot of people thought this was Bucky Barnes, maybe even Johnny Storm. But now I'm starting to think that this is Sentry / the Void, who's being held captive and used as a battery. That means Miles Morales and Peter Parker gotta come through with a cheeseburger to save the multiverse. But I'm definitely picking up what you're putting down, Jake Schreier. You can't fool me. I'm familiar with Marvel's game. That right there makes the most sense why the Thunderbolts are gonna have such a big role in Avengers Doomsday. Because after this movie, I feel like they're probably protective over Bob, but we just gotta wait and see now.
And another thing I noticed on a couple of rewatches of Thunderbolts was the fact that Bob was not featured in any of those fake headlines from like the New York Times during the credits. So it's interesting to see that it looks like the public doesn't know that Bob / Sentry / the Void is a part of this new Avengers lineup. So that's going to be an interesting aspect, because it seems like they're trying to keep him a secret from the general public. I mean, I know he's the one who kind of caused all the mayhem downtown, but you know, I don't think anyone saw Sentry, so it's interesting. I like the aspect that they're doing. They're kind of doing like a, if the animal gets out, we don't want people to be scared of him. It's very similar to the Hulk. It feels like they're treating Bob like the Hulk for this version of the new Avengers, and you know, I kind of like that. I really like that. You know, the Void as an entity itself is an interesting concept, especially in a couple of different comic runs. But I think for the MCU's purposes, like, they're probably never going to be able to go to that world-ending threat that the Void actually is, and why they make Bob forget who he is so that it never comes back. I think instead he'll just be treated kind of like this ticking time bomb of a human, you know, Deus ex machina, which is kind of how he's been treated in the comics anyway. Like, every time Sentry pulls up, it's usually to make some fight end or some situation end, or, you know, it's always like an end game with Sentry in the comics or the Void in the comics. So I like how they're treating it like that, like, especially now that we have this very close bond and connection with Bob himself, and he's so lovable. It's like you don't want to see him turn into the Sentry, because you know that means he might turn into the Void. Like, it's a very interesting conundrum for the audience itself. And if he gets taken over by Doom, that's just going to be even more sad, because you're telling me Doom's going to use him as a battery the same as Molecule Man. It feels very similar to how his dad used to abuse him. So, you know, like I said, though, there's a lot of very interesting things they could do, and I'm feeling like this is the route they're going down.
Either way, man, I mean, Bob is really just like me for real. Everything with his backstory really hit. Remember myself, I used to be in crisscross applesauce trying to hide away from all the pain I used to feel. Man, I cannot wait to see what they do with him. Either way, Sentry's here in the MCU, and I'm juiced, because this shit means something to me.
But let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. What do you think about my theories? Drop a comment down below, and as always, like and follow for more.